What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about myths people believe about Canadian culture. Myths. This ought to be good. Um, Needless to say, Americans have a lot of preconceived ideas about what's going on in Canada, igloos, permanent winter that never ends, a Timmy's on every street corner, maple syrup running through the streets itself. Maybe some of this stuff isn't even that far-fetched now that I think about it out loud. Okay, no. But that's why we're here, to debunk some of the myths. These are myths people still believe about Canada, according to this video. Not necessarily what Americans think about Canada. So it may transcend beyond just American stereotypes of Canadians. It might have some of that or other things. I don't know. Either way, it sounds very interesting and very informative. So let's take a look about the myths that we all believe about Canada.
So we Canadians aren't exactly known for our mysteriousness, and we're definitely not known for lying. So why, oh why, are there so many lies about our great nation floating around out there? Other than, of course, the truth that we all ride polar bears to work.
Oh my god, why did I have to... This guy is very expressive. I paused... This is the frame I pause it on? Anyway, that's the polar bear riding expression that all Canadians make, huh? Okay, good to know.
In this video, I'm going to take the 7 most commonly believed myths that you likely still believe about Canada and explain the truth behind them. So if you think that we apologize a lot and that our national animal is a beaver and that we eat maple syrup in pretty much every meal, well, you'd be right. But
I was about to say, I thought I knew something about Canada, like the national animal. I did not know that for a long time. I thought that was made up. It was like a reverse myth, somehow. It is a beaver, right?
Today I'm going to be covering the rest of the stuff. So this is 7 myths you still believe about Canada.
Okay.
Most Canadians see snow year-round.
Yeah! Oh, wow. Yeah, this is gonna be a good list. This is gonna be good. That's a big one. I know that's not true, but like growing up in America with the very limited teachings of Canada, the mythical, magical world of Canada to the north that for some reason we aren't taught much about. At least now with the internet and stuff, in this day and age, you can watch a YouTube video on it or something. But yeah, I definitely pictured winter, snow, cold when I thought of Canada.
One of the biggest cliches about Canada is that we all live in igloos and get around by dog sled. And as far as that sounds, it's just not true. In fact, most Canadians have never even seen a real-life dog sled, let alone traveled on one. The truth is, though most winters can be super harsh, most of the country's population experiences summers that could make a Californian sweat. See, the majority of Canadians live close to the Canada-US border, and thus experience similar weather to that you'd expect in places like Boston or New York City.
Okay. See, I can pause the video any random moment, and he's making, like, a wild expression. I like it. Yeah. So, I mean, it does seem like, I could be wrong, but it seems like winter in Canada is more extreme on average than in America. But the summer is at least equivalent to an American summer, for the most part. That's definitely the part that Americans don't understand.
And as you likely know, nobody's navigating Times Square in a dog sled. Toronto is the capital of Canada.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Yes, that is a good one. Wow, this is good. He's reading my mind. Toronto is the capital of Canada. You know, there's been times during videos where I'm reacting to Canadian topics where I've learned stuff at this point. I've learned some things about Canada, and I have to just remember, what did I used to think? Because I can just go back into, like, my brain from a while back when I didn't know anything and be like, what did I think about Canada? And this is it. This comes to mind. Toronto, for one thing. Americans don't know too many places in Canada, but one name that sticks out that we hear being said amongst the town is Toronto. And I always figured it must be the capital of Canada just because I heard it talked about all the time. So this is a good one and very true.
Canada. With the largest population and standing as arguably the most famous Canadian city, Toronto seems like the perfect place to call the nation's capital. But while it does hold the title of the capital of Ontario, it's actually Ottawa, another Ontario city, that holds the big label.
Yeah, Ottawa, and a lot of Americans get confused with Ontario and Ottawa and which one is a province and what's a city, and I remember that confused me. I'm gonna be honest here. But Toronto, I always knew was a city. The big old Canadian city where stuff happens, where the place to be.
As the designated center of political power, a capital city needs to be well protected as well as have access to an abundance of resources, not to mention transportation networks. Queen Victoria chose Ottawa to be Canada's capital on December 31st, 1857. Not only was it in an excellent defensive position, but Ottawa was also chosen because of its location right on the border between French and English-speaking Canada.
Oh, I didn't know any of that. Wow. I didn't know we were going to get like a history lesson today. I don't mind it. It's good stuff. Actual logical reasons why Ottawa was chosen. For its position, it was more defendable. It's it's strategically located between different populations of Canadians. French speaking, English speaking, all that. Makes a lot of sense.
With convenient access to two different waterways, Ottawa was accessible to both populations and made for the perfect place for a capital. Canadians don't have guns.
Okay. Canadians don't have guns. Did I ever think that? Do I think that? I think Canadians are very nice, and Americans are obviously known for ravenously defending our gun laws, I think, and for owning guns. A huge part of the American population owns guns and is proud of that. And I definitely don't associate that with Canada at all. But would I have thought that Canadians don't have guns? I would think Canadians don't own guns nearly as often as Americans own guns. But I would think, I don't even know how difficult it is to get a gun in Canada. It's much too easy to get in America. It's kind of scary easy. You don't have to pass any kind of test, really, to prove your competence, which is kind of alarming. Anyway, this video is not about that, but this topic is related. Canadians, I imagine, can get guns for maybe hunting. We own them also for self-defense purposes, we say. This is interesting. There's some truth to this. I don't associate guns with Canadians owning them.
This myth comes up most often when comparing laws and murder rates between Canada and the US. But we'll do a little comparison. For instance, it's an incredibly rare occasion to have a license granted in Canada to carry a gun for personal protection. However, to say that Canadians absolutely hate guns or that no Canuck owns one is an absolute falsehood. Under the Firearms Act of 1995, over 7 million Canadian citizens possess firearms.
7 million. That's a lot. 7 million out of 38-ish million people. 7. Yeah. That's 1 out of 5-ish Canadians have a gun. Really? That many? Yeah. 7 times 5, right? About 35, 38. Wow. That surprises me. That actually kind of surprises me. Yeah, I don't know anything about the laws or anything.
But these are mostly for sporting and recreational use. Canadian beer is strong.
Okay, well that's a big difference in America. A lot of Americans own a gun with no intention of hunting or anything like that. It's just to own a gun in case stuff gets bad, whatever that means.
Firearms, but these are mostly for sporting and recreational use. Canadian beer is stronger.
Canadian beer is stronger. I would have believed that. Maybe it's like the hockey thing. Why would I think that? Canadian beer is stronger? Just I picture Canadians sucking back on some beers with some good old hockey or something. I don't know. I have that image in my mind. So I figured, maybe it's stronger. Maybe it's maple infused. Who knows? I don't know. On the same hand, I picture Americans drinking beer, watching football, American football. Beer in America goes hand in hand as well. Yeah, I gotta be honest, this is not something I ever really thought.
This myth's creation is mostly due to a misunderstanding of how alcohol percentages are represented in each country. In the United States, percentages are determined by weight and displayed on the bottle's label. But in Canada, we measure the alcohol content by volume. What this means is that seeing 4% alcohol in a beer in America and 5% in Canada doesn't actually mean that there's 1% more in the north.
Wow, okay. I've never like looked at Canadian alcohol, drank Canadian alcohol. I didn't know about this, but this makes total sense. It's actually very logical that this would be confusing to a lot of people. Wow.
Alcohol weighs less than water, making it seem like American beer is weaker. But the reality is that most beers around the world ring in at around 5%. So whether it's Budweiser or a Molson Canadian, it's going to hit you the same.
You hear that? The American beer is not weaker. It's not. It's not. I'm not getting defensive either.
Canada is policed by Mounties in red coats on horseback.
There's a good one. These are good. This is a good video. Yeah. Americans think this. They definitely do. Took a while for me to come around even. I was a little disappointed when I found out this was not the case. Mounties are not all over the place. They are special, like law enforcement, mounted law enforcement on horseback. That's kind of crazy when I think about it. That's really interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I'll learn more about Mounties in some other time. That's another video. But yes, for some reason, Mounties are famous for Americans. Americans are drawn to Mounties. They want Mounties to be more prevalent than they are. We want them to be everywhere. They look cool. They're striking, very Canadian. This is a good one.
People, how could you actually believe this myth? Come on now. Most criminals have access to a car, which means that they can outrun a horse. Logic. In Canada, we
Oh, no. No, I didn't want to think that. I didn't want to think about the logistics.
Absolutely do have Mounties, more formally known as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP. But they're our national police force and only wear the red ensemble for official or ceremonial purposes. Additionally, the most populated provinces, Ontario and Quebec, are policed by their own provincial police forces. And I assure you, they get around by cruiser, not by horse.
That's a whole other thing. Americans don't realize, like... and we should, because the different states in America have different laws, local governments, and Americans just don't seem to like get that through their head about provinces and stuff. Okay, here's the next one. Canada is ruled by Britain.
Canada is ruled by Britain.
Canada is ruled by Britain. Actually, it turns out that for most Americans, including myself, I had to learn that Canada had anything to do with the British Empire and had anything to do with British history. I had to learn that. I didn't know that. So I don't think this one is actually very prevalent among Americans. Canada is ruled by Britain. No, Americans don't really know that Canada has anything to do with Britain or British history, to be honest. That's my opinion. I feel pretty confident in saying that. And of course I'm talking about like average Americans, like me.
Britain. Yet another big misconception is the idea that Her Majesty the Queen II dictates our laws and rules from across the sea. Allow me to explain the truth. Canada is a parliamentary democracy and a constitutional monarchy. The Queen herself is only a figurehead in our country.
Yeah, like... most Americans don't even know the Queen is anything in Canada or that Canada has a constitutional monarchy because most Americans know there's a Canadian Prime Minister and a normal sort of elected democratic government. Or I could be getting the details wrong, but, you know, we don't think of the Queen when we think of Canada. We think of the UK.
But she really only fills ceremonial and symbolic roles. She's actually represented by the Governor General here in Canada. As for who makes the decisions in Canada, we have our own Prime Minister and government. They're the ones who are elected in and decide which laws need to be adhered to, much like the United States. People don't lock their doors in Canada.
Ha ha! Pa! Okay, I never would have thought this is true. Hold on, where'd it go? Oh,
In 2000,
hold on. Rewind.
adhered to, much like the United States. People don't
Here we go. People don't lock their doors in Canada. That's funny. That's kind of a compliment, right? That means some people think Canada is a swell place to live. You don't even have to lock your door. No crime, no problems, no one's doing anything weird. Everyone trusts each other. True utopia. Don't even lock your door. Yeah. If you're gonna walk through your door, like, into your house, why wouldn't you just lock it since you pass by? Like, it would be kind of effort to not lock it. Anyway, I just could never imagine doing that. I think the people of Canada lock their doors. Not to say that they totally mistrust each other, but I never thought this one in particular.
don't lock their doors in Canada. In 2002, documentary filmmaker Michael Moore made a bold statement that Canadians felt so safe they refused to lock their doors in a movie called Bowling for Columbine. His theory was that
I never saw that movie. I know that movie maker. Really, he said that? That is a bold statement.
we were totally unafraid of crime, which is ridiculous. Now, according to Statistics Canada, this is definitely a safer country than the United States when compared to violent crime rates like aggravated assault and homicide. But believe it or not, there are a few crimes like property and car theft in which the Great White North actually has higher rates in. And
wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. This video is a little old, I think. This was made like 6 years ago, so maybe the stats have changed, who knows? Or maybe Canadians are just a bunch of property thieving, vandalizing people that I just never knew. My whole worldview is shattered now. No, I imagine the rates are probably very similar, and Canada randomly is ahead. Probably better that than to be like leading in murder or something like America, so... there's a bright side to everything.
like property and car theft in which the Great White North actually has higher rates in. And because of that fact, most of us absolutely lock our doors. Now, excuse me while I upload this video through Wi-Fi, which is being transmitted through polar bear fur. And that's all for this time, guys. Remember to...
I like this guy. I like this video. This is by Matthew Santoro. Very good. I give that a like. That was a great video. Very good points. Very entertaining. Some of them I didn't necessarily agree with, but I enjoyed all of them. Oh, it's cold in Canada. What are the 7 myths? It's cold. No one has guns. The beer is stronger. The Mounties are everywhere. And no one locks their doors. That's Canada for you. No, those are the myths. They've been debunked. But I can absolutely see people from all parts of the world thinking some of these things. Some of these are kind of silly and fun. Some are more serious. But I enjoyed them all. It was good stuff. Very informative. And correcting any misconceptions I had. Very good. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada, Canadian culture, stuff in Canada that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.